Hello, my name is Mike, and this is my very first attempt at making a YouTube video. I am a big fan of space, astronomy, and any science to do with the universe. And I didn't know about Kerbal Space Program until a couple of months ago, this summer of 2020. Can you believe that? All this time, didn't know this game. Anyway, as I discovered it, I learned it had a very large learning curve. So I went on YouTube. I found guys like Scott Manley, Matt Lown, Mike Aben, Shadow something, which happens to be my favorite guy. His voice was hello. Anyway, what I did notice was all those guys are on PC. They have really great mods that we'll never be able to use for PS4 or consoles, I guess. So I thought maybe I would try my hand at some tutorials on PS4 with its limitations. So-called limitations, we'll put it that way. I am going to start a career mode and explain controls and gameplay kind of as we go. Now, I don't know how to edit stuff very well or anything really, so expect this to be an utter mess. But if you learn something in the process, that's great. And I would suggest going to check out those other guys I mentioned on YouTube because they're pretty good. Scott Manley has great knowledge of astronomy in general. Matt Lown, I would say he is the SSTO king. Most of his videos are about that and rescuing people. Mike Aben, if you want to understand numbers and the equations, there's where you go for that. Okay, so we're gonna go to options here. Change the flag. Let's just be Kerbal. For now, we'll stay in career. Edit the name. We will go with tutorial 1. In case I do another one. Why would I do another one? I don't know. Okay, we'll go to options again. Change difficulty. Now, you have already flights. I want that. That's so you can restart flights. If you see you're about to crash or you realize that the equipment you've put on your ship or your vehicle is inadequate or wrong, you can go ahead and revert and go back. Quick loading, to be honest with you, I'm not real sure what that is. Maybe somebody can explain it to me, but I allow it anyway. Missing crews respawn. Now you can have them die, or when they do die, they'll come back. If you unclick that, they die, they stay gone. I should mention that even on this, and you have revert flights, I have crashed, reverted my flight, went back, and still the guy was dead. I don't know how that works, but that's what it was. So I pretty much keep that. But that's just a personal choice. Auto hire crew members for flight. That's cool. But if you don't hire them, they won't let you launch it. So I don't know what no entry purchase required on research is, but I keep it on because it sounds like an extra expenditure. Now, indestructible facilities. If you leave this off, then if you drop a stage on your facility or wreck into it with a plane or something, it will burn to the ground. KSP has added some stock vessels in the game that you can have show up on the menu. If you choose one of the vehicles, it will only load if you have the appropriate research to open up the parts involved in that vehicle. Re-entry heating, resource abundance, comm network, I mean, it's explanatory, right? I mean, you can tweak your parameters there. And the comm network, if you enable that, then you have to have uh, satellites and stuff to be able to send like automated craft, or even to have the pilots be able to see certain uh, navigational options, we'll put it that way. Career options, here's all your starting funds, starting science, all that stuff. We're going to leave it alone. What I do though is I take reputation penalties, decline penalties, and fund penalties, I take them down. The reason I do this is because during the course of career mode, some contracts aren't fulfillable. You pick them, you get yourself into the position where the contract should work and it doesn't. I absolutely hate when it happens, but it does, and then you have to decline that mission. Now it takes back the advance it gave you, and then a penalty on top of that. Plus you lose some reputation. Well, I don't think that's fair, so I have taken any negative penalties down to as low as possible in order to have that not hurt so much, because it's not my fault that those contracts are unfulfillable. Okay, that was the basic side. Let's go to advanced side. Kerbal G-Force. Oh, Kerbal. Enable Kerbal experience. With this setting off, astronauts start with maximum experience. Okay, so that, if you turn it off, everybody has experience, whether it's pilot, engineer, or scientist. They will be able to see all the nodes, because you have prograde, retrograde, normal, anti-normal, radial in, radial out, target, anti-target, maneuver, and then SAS itself. Kerbals level up immediately, allow negative fun science, parts pressure limits. You can have the rocket fail if you exceed the pressure of the parts. G-force limits, parts will fail when they exceed their G-forces. Kerbal. I like to choose this one because if you do choose this one, then you get contracts to knock people out, and that's really fun and amazing. You can set their tolerance there and just leave that alone. Resource transfer obeys cross-feed rules and says prevents manually transferring resources across parts that cannot cross-feed with each other. I generally leave that one alone. Always allow action groups. Now, if there's anything this game needs, is action groups. I mean, if you have 6 science, well, generally you have, in the beginning, you have 5 science things. You got to do a crew report, test the goo, temperature, pressure, and then the materials bay when you get that. Of course, there's other ones, but you can either click on each one and run that experiment, and you have to chase down wherever you've put these things, or you can set them all up to where you can hit one and it will set off all 5 experiments at one time, and all you have to do is choose the options that come up after that. So I always allow action groups. Action groups are a necessity in my opinion. Part upgrades, I'm not sure, but we'll keep it up. Require signal for control. Now this is where you can make it easier or hard on yourself, and especially for unmanned things. If they don't have a signal from Kerbin, you cannot control it whatsoever. Plasma blackout. I don't know if there's any storms out from the sun, but I do know that when you're entering an atmosphere. You know, a lot of people say it's on fire, but that's actually plasma going around the ship, and I assume that means that you can't transfer or transmit through that plasma. If I'm wrong, somebody let me know. But we're going to go ahead and choose it. And then enable ground stations. Now, we're going to leave this on for now, but for fun, I will turn it off, and then it forces you to build a communications infrastructure in space. So when you, say if you have this off and you launch a satellite, and as you're ascending, say you instead of taking off and going out to the east like you do, like normally you would do, you go ahead and point it north. Well, when you get up far enough north, if you don't have these ground stations on, you lose the signal. And then wherever you're at in the ascension process is where you're stuck. So if you're still thrusting, you'll thrust yourself till it runs out of gas. Fact is you'll have no response from that vehicle whatsoever until it hits a signal again. So as soon as you're able to, always remember to raise your antenna when you get out of the atmosphere enough to keep from damaging it. We're going to keep the ground stations on, just so no matter what, there will be a signal to these things as we go. Alright. That's pretty much how I'm going to set this up. Save and exit. Career. Let's start it. Okay, here's Gene Kerman. I guess he runs the Space Center. Okay. Decide to use radio presets. Honestly, I've never used anything but the radio presets, so yeah, I should probably go look at the other things, but we're not going to do that now. We're going to stay in radio presets. We're good to go. Okay, administration building. In here, you can do various strategies to make money, generate science, or generate popularity. I can't believe I'm drawing a blank at the moment. Reputation, sorry. Depending on where you go, that's what this is all about. You can, through all this, you can convert money into reputation or science, or you can turn science into reputation or money, or you can turn reputation into science or money. I mean, any combination you can pretty much work out in this. It's based on your present reputation and, you know, different factors. Basically, I don't ever come to this building. I think I did one time. I actually ran out of money, and I used, there's a couple of these two here. You can trade funds for science, and you can trade funds for reputation immediately. But once you get rolling, I don't see the point in this building, to be honest with you, other than it's here, and you have to upgrade the building at some point. So let's back out of this. Astronaut complex. This is where you hire and fire your guys. You find out where they're assigned, and you find out who's missing. You find out their name down there in the bottom. Cathcart, Kerman. Now, the way I have played career mode so far, you'll never be hiring any of these people. Okay? And you'll figure out why later. Um, if you hit square, it will bring up each building, facility level, how much it costs to upgrade, and as you see, if you mouse over it, it will tell you what that upgrade will do for you. This one, right now, it's at 5 kerbals. There's as high, many kerbals you can have on in your program right now, and they can only get out of their ship after it's landed on this planet. Now, once you upgrade, you can get 12 people in your program, and they can get out of the ship, whether it's in the air or underground. They can also begin to put flags down. Okay, and then you circle out of that. Flagpole is just that. You can change the flag there, but we're happy with our flag. Launch pad. Max vessel size is 20. Max vessel weight is 18 tons. You know, obviously as you upgrade, those parameters increase. Now you got your mission control. This is where you get your contracts available. The ones you've chosen that are active, and then the ones that you've done already, whether you failed them, canceled them, or completed them. We'll come back to this one. Right now, as you can see, our max is 2 contracts. But if you upgrade it, you see it goes up to 7, and eventually it goes to infinite. Research and development, very important building. Right now, I believe research science limit is 100. That's okay, because you're not going to get 100 points for quite a while. There's plenty below that, so that's where that is. The runway, you start out with this, basically looks like a dirt road, crappy runway, and then you can upgrade as you go, but it has size and weight limits too. A space plane hangar where you build, guess what, space planes, airplanes, rovers, things like that that you want to drive on the surface and want to build in a horizontal fashion. That I would say it was easier to do that in a space plane hangar. As you can see, if we didn't choose always allow action groups, we would have had to wait until we upgraded the space plane hangar, I think. Or maybe it's just, I'm not sure, but as you can see, they allow you to use custom action groups when you upgrade there. Tracking station. This building is very important. We're going to go in. You can track debris, probes, rovers, landers, ships, stations, bases, planes, relays, EVAs, flags, space objects, unknown objects, launch sites, and ground station sites, I suppose. Up here, you have your network settings.
I don't know that one.
But you can track every flight you have, every satellite, everything. You can move to different planets and check them out. If you want to see what they look like before you go there. Jewel here, by the way, is a huge, huge gas giant with its own solar system. Look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 moons. And I believe Lathe here has an atmosphere. You can, like, a really thick one. Anyway, we are far from going to any of those planets. This is home sweet home here, where we have the Mun, which is the moon, and then one farther out, 46 million miles, or 46 million meters By the way, I'm a ex-carpenter. That was my career, and I'm firmly entrenched in the imperial uh, measuring system. So I have a hard time with meters and kilometers and things like that, but I do my best, and I make it work. We're gonna back out of this, leave the checking station. Checking station is key to being able to make maneuvers. No, I accidentally upgraded it and then went to it. See there? I think I upgraded it. Yeah, I did. I can tell by the way it looks. So, by God, we've already got a slightly upgraded deal here. And then DSN power is at 50. Okay. And then you have the vehicle symbol building. Right now, maximum parts 30. Customization groups are available. Let's go in there. Welcome to the vehicle symbol building. This is Werner von Kerman. Now, if anybody knows their history, Werner von Braun, was that his name? He was the Nazi that we brought back from Germany at the end of World War II. And he basically helped pioneer NASA and the rocket program as we know it today. That's right, we hired Nazis. And by God, whatever you think of that, we have an amazing space program. Okay. Now, welcome to the vehicle symbol building. This is where you will spend a lot of time building things. So, I guess what we'll do first, hit start. Return to the Space Center. The point of this video right now is to kind of explain controls and stuff. So first we're going to go to mission control. I'm going to gather scientific data from Kerbin. Basically, I want a crew report before launching. If it's fine, analyze the control panel, flashing, just give it a swift kick. Okay, so we're going to accept that, and when you do accept it, you get $2,240 in advance. When you complete it, you get 4,160 Kerbin dollars, 1 science point, 2 reputation points, right? And then achieve goal completion of 6,400 as well, which why there's 2 completions, whatever. So we're gonna go ahead and accept that mission. And then of course we have to launch a vessel, right? So we'll pick this one, launch first vessel off the launch pad or the runway to achieve this. I give you 1,100 bucks up front. I give you another $2,000 when you're done. Plus, well, I guess basically 5,280 in completion money altogether. Let's accept that. Return to the Space Center. Basically, this page is the Space Center. Enter the VAB, Vehicle Assembly Building. Okay. Pardon me. Here is the parts list up this left side here. First, let's go over some basic stuff. L3 is how you toggle from being on this menu here and being able to control where you are. The pods, and we hit X, and then we find ourselves in there. And then you can hit, if you hit up on the D-pad, you can switch to variants. Down will change the way the part is listed. And right and left will separate these parts by either name, mass, cost, or size. We're gonna go with mass. Okay. But then and then you hit circle to back out to here. And then X to go in there, right? If you want it, you hit X again. But what you don't really want your first piece to be, you know, a basically you want your command pod to be your rooted piece for now. And by rooted piece, it's the one piece that you touch, and everything attached to it will come with it, no matter what. Everything. If you don't grab the root piece, you're leaving something behind. Okay. So here's the contracts. So launch our first vessel. Always read these notes to understand specific. Launch version off the launch pad. Choose scope. Scientific data. Recover, transmit, science. Yeah. Okay. So now down here, you have a manual. This here is. This will give you all the numbers that you need to help you calculate thrust to weight ratio, total thrust, ISP, delta V, weights, burns times, and you can see it all here. Different altitudes in vacuum, different bodies. As far as I can tell, it's what the guys on PC were using. It was called what was it called? It was it not MechJet, but it was some kind of calculator. It escapes me right now. But if you want that to stay up all the time, any of these, you just click on it. Anytime you see this specific thing, this is a pin. If that's green, it will stay there. Here is your engineer's report. It tells you can't transmit science and sources and parachutes because there's no antenna. There's no this MP is monopropellant, and I don't have any monopropellant thrusters anywhere, so it's telling me that. Okay. Contracts. Controls. Now this is important here. If you're on there, if you're on screen and you can't figure out where to what controls what, always go to this thing here. Now when you're flying, it's generally up in this right hand corner around here somewhere, but it's there and it helps you kind of choose what exactly you want to do. This here is like notifications after you've done contracts or completed a milestone of some kind, like broken a speed record or height or something like that. Okay, now up here you have tools. These are all tools that help you set parts that you're installing. Reroute, rotating, moving, and then placing. I'll get into that now. So basically we're just going to launch a vehicle. We can choose any one of these pods. I'm going to choose this one. Now if you see these teardrops, raindrop, water droplet, whatever you want to call it.
Here's your reminder. Take medicine.
My computer wants me to take medicine, isn't it? Sorry about that. Alright. So, basically these are the variants. They can be seen in different ways. This one has 3 variants. You've got all white, white with a dark stripe, dark with a white stripe. We'll go with, that's if you chose it from up there. We're going to go down here. Now if you hit square, you will pull up all of the things you can do with this specific part. You can change your variants, how it looks. Some variants are more extreme and actually change the shape of the whole thing. But in this case, it's just aesthetic looks, and we're going to go with all white for now. And you have monopropellant, which, like I said, there's no thrusters of monopropellant. There are none available right now either, so you can empty it. You can fill up and empty all your levels of whatever you're working with. It's fuel, coal, any of that stuff. Oxidizer, yeah, all that. And then you have basic stuff like mirror flag. You can turn it around to make it backwards. You can turn the flag off altogether. You can have the lights be on now or not. You can turn those on later. Toggle torque is to control the reaction wheel. Now, if you notice when I toggle the torque, it disables the action wheel. I'm not exactly sure. I guess you set it to that, the reaction wheel works normal, but if you set it to that, then the reaction wheel will only be on with SAS. Which I thought was the case anyway. To be honest, I'm not clear on this part, but just keep it on normal, you'll be fine. Okay? And don't disable the torque, but you can do that. That is what will eat up your battery, is reaction wheel torque. But you need it, so yeah. And you want this to be the default control point. You can change the name of the vessel at any time by doing that. You got rigid attachments. I go with none. Okay. Now I noticed in the PC world that there are people that don't. They refuse to use that, and then later on there is an auto strut. It won't be in this video, but there'll be an auto strut. Some people don't use it, and I assume it's because when KSP first came out, they didn't have any of that, and they're like die-hard fundamentalists. But yeah, it's there for a reason, and I use it, and it keeps things nice and tight, and that's the way you want it. Alright, so if you want this thing to get off the ground, you need something to make it do that right. Right now there's no fuel tanks. We do have an engine, and this engine contains, we'll go back, this engine contains a solid propellant. Right, weighs a ton and a half, maximum thrust in a vacuum is 192. Maximum thrust at sea level is 162. So there's a 20 kilonewton difference depending where you're at in the atmosphere. This is another one with variance. Basically just a color scheme again on this. We'll just keep it like that basic. And this is called the Flea Solid Fuel Booster. Now understand this is a solid fuel booster and not an engine. Rigid attachment, we're going to turn it on. Shroud, we'll leave it enabled. There's no shroud right now, so don't worry about it. Okay, now notice that you can adjust the amount of fuel within this and the amount of thrust. So if you want to go out like a bat out of hell right now, leave it at 100%. But if you had a lot of thrust to weight ratio, in other words, even a little bit of gas will make this thing go in a forward momentum, then you can play around with the thrust. You can turn it way down to 0 all the way up to 100, obviously. In this case, I am going to turn it down to let's just do 50%. Around 50%. Well, sometimes they'll let you put a value in if you click over an empty spot, but not this time, right? And then the solid fuel that's in there. Now that's weight, and we have to stay under 18 tons, which isn't going to be a problem. But if you notice, the contract is launch the first vehicle. It doesn't say you have to break a height. It doesn't say distance. None of that. Just launch it, right? Well, I've noticed that the contracts are based on whatever milestone you may have come across. Like, say, once you've made it into past the carbon line, which is at 70,000 meters right now, you're considered to be in space, quotation. You get credit for having been there, and then after that, you get contracts that reflect that, right? So, if we were to escape the atmosphere and then come back, we'll get contracts like a tourist wants to do a suborbital flight, which is basically what if you just shoot up, go up to 70,000 or above, and come back down, that's a suborbital flight, right? Because you didn't orbit the planet, you just went up and down. You get contracts like that, and you'll keep getting those if you do them until you break the next milestone, which would be actually orbiting the planet. And then after that, you no longer will get a contract for suborbital flights. They will all be for orbital flights. So it increases the difficulty of the contract based on your current milestones. So I'm going to keep it low, right? And I'm going to just cut this in half too for simplicity. How do you like that for a beautiful half shot? Alright. Square turns that menu off, on, off. Square. This is all square. And just real quick, if you want to copy a part, hold down square and then hit X, and we'll copy the part, and we'll have it'll be an exact clone. It'll have all the fuel levels, rigid attachment, all of it. It will all be there, right? We're not going to do that, but that's what it is. Alright, now if you shoot this thing and it's up now, that's great, it'll be nice. But there's somebody in there. And what goes up must come down. So, how about we slow them down a little bit? Put a parachute on there, right? Now let's go inside, look at this, rigid attachment. Of course, why wouldn't you want it, right? Spread angle. Now that, obviously is how wide you want the chute to open. Now, this is going to be having to stop all of this vehicle, the whole thing, right? So, I don't know where I ever got this 0.2 on a minimum pressure. I don't remember, but I've seen it, and I set it to that every time. I guess it's so the chute doesn't open if there's no atmosphere. I mean, they're absolutely useless without atmosphere, so, yeah. And then this adjusts where you want that to deploy. We'll leave it at 1,000. In fact, I think we'll take it down to 700. Right. So, you have an inch, shoot it up. You have parachute, slow it down. Okay. And like I said, we're trying to stick with the size, parts count, and all thing. You go through here, we have science. Now, in order to fill the contract of gather scientific data from Kerbin, we're gonna need one of these babies. And down here, you'll see the toggle snap. And you want to be real familiar with that, because the snap will help you when it comes to snapping into the perfect, perfect slot, center slot like this, to where the smooth one is, you can just pretty much put it wherever. For this, we're going to do this. Now, in the interest of action groups, here is the thing. Now you have symmetry to where you can choose 2 things, 3 things, 4 on up, and it will space them evenly apart so the vehicle is weighed, in the center. So you can go ahead and choose 2 like that, and that's great. Now, where the problem comes, by the way, you go to R1, here's your action group list. Right now, we're going to give custom group 1 our attention. Now, you set it to the number you want it on, and then you choose the part you want to control. First off, I want to do things with the command pod. Here's all the things you can do with the command pod when you link it to that. All I want it to do is to take a crew report right now. And then sometimes you don't want crew reports, or you don't want the science that you're given. Well, the science device will hold that data. And if it's data that's useless that you've collected elsewhere, that instrument can no longer work until you clear that data out. So you either have to go to it manually, open it up, take the data out, and then reset it, or you can set up a different button, which I like to go with 3. It's a long story, but that's where I am with this. You eventually get your own system. notice that they have a discard crew report. Well, that's where I put that. Okay, so if I take a crew report and it's like, yeah, this is great, you take a crew report above the KSP. And I come back later and I take a crew report of KSP. And instead of hitting the reset button, I accidentally keep the save experiment. Well, now I got to get out of there. So discard crew report does that for me. It clears it out, and then I can take a new report. And we'll set it back to 1. And what we want to do is the mystery goo. But look, when you highlight the part, it highlights both of them. Why? Because you set them there in symmetry. It was great for the build, but now you don't want the same scientific experiment running twice, right? So what you have to do then is go back to the building spot, right? Right click or square, open it up, and you have remove from symmetry. And I'll go ahead and choose rigid attachment on. And honestly, what I should have done was choose the rigid attachment on first, and it would have set both of them to the same thing. Because when they're in symmetry, when you make a change to one, you make a change to all in that symmetry group. Whether it's 2 things or 8. Okay. So since I didn't, now I have to go to the other one. Notice that the rigid attachment is off on that. So do that. Now, they're their own now. They're no longer connected to each other by symmetry. So now we can go back to the custom one and choose one, and look at that. It's just one of them. So we want to observe it. Now again, you might not want that again. So here's a reset canister. That will remove the data that's on it and cause it to reset. Now you have this extra one here, and you may or may not need it, but you need measurements at different heights and even on the ground. So if you don't use a scientist, say pilots cannot reset these things. Scientists can, but they don't have much control of the craft. So you have to play around with that, but this is what you do here. So I have lost track of which one I set up. Actually, I have it. If you notice, when I pick this one, it shows green. That means I have that part connected to at least one of these, which means that one's the number 1. So here's my number 2. We'll go ahead and do observe mystery goo again, and then we're going to use 4 for the reset. So basically, I have do science, take that science out, take that science out. Get rid of it, not keep it. Okay. So I don't know why, but I noticed that when you set things up sometimes, if you go to L3 right away, sometimes it will take away what you put in there. So I suggest before you get rid of the cursor, go to an action group that has nothing on it, like that, and then hit L3, and it'll free it up so you can hit R1, L1, and move on to the next one. Now, Jebediah is the pilot in this, but of course you can put whoever the hell you want to in there. I'm going to put the scientist in there because this is just a launch. He doesn't have to steer the ship. And if need be, he can reset the science at the landing, right? So he's going to ride that thing, but we're not ready yet. We're set up to do the science, so that will take care of the first contract of gather science, and then the second one, obviously we're gonna achieve that. Make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Yeah, we need wings. If we don't do these fins, this thing's gonna flip all over hell, and it's not. Now, depending on your part count, 3 is probably just fine. In fact, we'll just use 3. You can use, whatever you like, as long as it's within the parameter of this and whatever your contract says. Now, I'm going to get a little bit into controlling these parts more, right? Now, let's do the rigid attachment. We'll keep it in symmetry. Now, because they're in symmetry, we can move them around the same way. Right, now, let's look at all these here. This is the standard place part, normal. Consider that the normal button. This is a move, right? So you choose that. Let's choose a fin. You go in and out. Right? You go up and down. And it gets kind of squirrely sometimes. And depending on which way you're looking at it, sometimes the buttons that were just making it go up and down now make it go in and out. So it takes a little practice, but you get, right? And then now in the KSP community, stuff like this is called clipping, when you have a part that's inside of it like that. Some people frown on it, some people don't. I don't know. I don't see any need to clip this right now, but I'm not always against clipping. And here's another thing, the snap button again. Now what I like to do is keep it in snap mode first. Kind of determine what does what. And you notice these do it in increments. It's not just, it's just me clicking it once. But when you need more fine tuning, you go to this. And then and sometimes it can be real jerky and stuff, and you end up flipping back and forth just because you want that one little point to touch. But it wants to mess with you. But you get it, and you just play around with it. Alright, and then you get your up and down, in and out, side to side, the way you want it. Maybe you want it to act a little strange on the launch pad, right? So you do that. Pretty sure that'll make a corkscrew. Right, and then you can go in and out like that. And then, see, for 2 axis, you can use the left joystick, up, down, left, right. For the 3rd axis, you have to hold L1, and that gives you a 3rd axis. It's not always this one, but that's what it is here. So there you go, like that. So you have a lot of different stuff. Now these parts, once you altered parts, they kind of stay that way. So I've done so much that I'm going to just start again with new straight ones. I'm gonna snap it into place like that. I'll do the rigid attachment. Symmetry is fine. Now here's the thing where some people would frown on this, other people would find it okay. Sometimes I like to do this. Take my aerodynamic down. Or that's my thought. Plus I think it looks sleeker that way. Some people have a problem with that, some don't. You know, I guess post in the comments on what you think about part clipping. But I'm going to leave that for now because it doesn't really matter. I feel like I've spent a long time on this, so I'm probably gonna wrap this up before I launch, but I want to make sure this is all ready. Now, I don't know why this thing is. We're gonna go there for now. Now come over here. This is staging. This is important. Now, if you hit the button and activate the engine here, I'm pretty sure you don't then want the parachute to open as well at the same time, do you? No. So I'm going to add a stage. In the bottom is this current stage. Always the most recent at the bottom. So this setup tells you that you'll activate the engine, and at some point the parachute. Up, down. Okay. So there's that. Now, you got our pieces together. We've got our ability to contracts. So let's rename the craft. Let's go with Flea Flicker. The name of the booster is a flea. And it's gonna flick us in the air. So seems like an appropriate name for ship. You name it, and then of course you have to save that to it. Don't just rename it and think it's saved. You have to save the craft. And there you go. One ready to go thing. Ship. Check your action groups, check your pilot. And there you go. Now, I'm gonna wrap it up here and check this video out and then post it. This is how you get to this point. This is my very first video. I hope it helps. I hope people like it. I hope I get asked for more. Give me your honest opinion, but don't be a dick, huh? Alright? Alright. When this thing gets launched, I will have it recorded and I will post it. But let's see what this does for now. Thank you very much, and we'll see you on the next one.